Hello, my wonderful and lovely humans. It is Miss Reyes and the King over here. And today we are going to be doing a little bit of a mitosis summary, or basically the cell cycle. So let's talk about it. Let me flip my screen here. All right. So we are on page 115 of our notebooks. Okay, so please make sure you get that page opened up. Now, I know we skipped over this page a little bit, so we're basically going back into the notebook because we have at this point hopefully glued in a couple of things or made a few folders, okay? But anyways, so this is page 115 of our notebook for spring 2022. All right, so we need to talk about this process of mitosis. Now, mitosis is actually going to be a part of our cell cycle. It's only one piece of it, and it's actually technically kind of a smaller piece, but it is definitely an important piece because this is where our cell is actually going to divide. All right. Okay, so again, mitosis is only basically one part of this puzzle here. The second part of this puzzle is our interphase. Okay, so interphase, this is when, Miss Reyes used her fingers, the spirit fingers, right? And our cell was kind of like paused here. Interphase, or sorry, our cell was, the DNA was wiggling around in our cell, right? So interphase and mitosis make up the cell cycle, all right? So let's talk a little bit about interphase first. Let's make sure we understand the processes, the stages at least, that are going on in interphase, okay? So interphase is going to consist of 3.5 stages. All right, now the first stage, why would I have 3.5 stages, Miss? Why not just round up to 4? So the reason is because this first stage that we're going to talk about, or this 0.5 stage, is kind of in a way optional because it's only going to occur when conditions are not optimal. Okay, so this is our G0 phase, and again, this is kind of like an optional phase. Unless we don't have enough food or we don't have enough water, we are going to want to continuously replicate our cells. So in this stage, right, it's just when conditions are not met. Do we not have enough food to actually run these processes? Do we not have enough water? Do we not have enough energy? That type of thing. Okay. So again, this G0 phase, and that's what that little line is. It's basically showing you that it's not an O, it's a G0. That phase is going to be something that is optional, doesn't always occur. Now, the other 3 stages, on the other hand, are always going to occur. So let's talk about those a little. So we can finally move on to stage number 1, the true real first stage, and that is going to be our first growth stage. So in this stage, what's happening is we're growing a little bit. We're preparing for our cells to replicate, to divide and replicate, right? So in order to do so, think about it. If we're going to divide our cells, we're going to basically have our cells. And that means that we want to give ourselves a little bit of meat, right? Before we actually divide. So that way we have something still remaining of us when we literally cut ourselves in half. All right. So our second stage is going to be referring to our synthesis stage. And synthesis, as we talked about in class, is a process where we are making something, making or building something. In this process, what we're making is an extra DNA copy. So we are right now in this point, we are kind of replicating our DNA. So the next phase, or sorry, stage of interphase is going to be a second growth phase. So we refer to this growth phase as G2. And again, since we have just spent up quite a bit of our cells replicating, we're preparing for this actual division that is going to occur in mitosis. We just wanted to make sure that we've got enough meat on our bones to not basically be halved into nothing. Okay, so we experience these 4 stages, technically 4, right? Technically more like sometimes 4, mostly usually 3. Okay. Now let's talk about mitosis, the second part of the cell cycle. So mitosis, aside from the 3.5 stages in interphase, is going to have its own full 4 stages. So we don't have any, sometimes it's going to occur here, sometimes it's not. Everything is always going to occur. Okay. All these 4 stages are going to occur. So our first stage of mitosis is the P phase. Okay. P is going to stand for prophase, or it can stand for pause. So Once again, over here in Interphase, what we were doing, right? You guys remember my hands stuff, right? Okay, so in Interphase, that's when I have my spirit fingers going. My DNA was just kind of free floating around. It's kind of hard to see my DNA, right? In our mitosis prophase stage, we are going to pause. So can you see my DNA now? Yeah, right. So my fingers are much more visible when they're steady and stable and paused than when they are basically free floating around in our nucleus. Okay. So our P stage of mitosis is prophase, but personally, I like to think of pause, right? We have stood still. We can now see our DNA well. Our second stage of mitosis is going to refer to the M stage or the metaphase stage. Now, when Miss Reyes is going through this, I like to think of M for middle. Okay, so the reason is because, again, starting back at interphase, because this is our first step. In interphase, we've got our DNAs wiggling around, right? Free floating around in the nucleus. Then we move into our mitosis stage. Our first position is going to be prophase. That's where we pause. So we went from wiggling to pausing, and we are then going to go into our M stage, which is here in the middle. Okay, so basically I clap my hands together and I kind of separate them here, and it ends up actually looking a little bit like a chromosome, not gonna lie. So that's what that M phase is, and this is how I remember metaphase or M for middle. Okay. The third stage of mitosis, we are getting there, guys. Uh-oh, the king, he just, I don't know, he was texting, I don't know, IMing, I don't know. Do we still do that these days? I don't know. All right. So our third stage of mitosis is going to refer to the A stage or to the anaphase stage. And again, because I don't necessarily always remember anaphase, although I do because I practice this quite a bit now. But the reason that I'm able to remember anaphase so well is because anaphase or A is going to stand for apart. So we have come here into the middle for metaphase, right? And now we are going to go ahead and split ourselves apart, and we're going to look something like this. Okay. So if you guys did our lab here, then you guys know that a cell that is in the anaphase is kind of separated itself. And sorry, guys, my fingers are covered in this blue marker here. But basically our cells have separated, and now we kind of have like finger looking structures on opposite sides, right? Because now our DNA has split apart. All right. And our fourth and final stage of mitosis. All right. Uh-oh, he doesn't want me to reveal it. Oh, little man, come on now. All righty. So our fourth and final stage of mitosis is our telophase stage. Now, telophase is going to start with that T. And basically what I like to think of when I think of telophase is 2. T for 2. And the reason is because here we've just entered in our anaphase, which was for apart. So our DNA is apart. Well, now we're actually going to make 2 new cells. Okay. And because this is a cycle, we're going to basically restart back here at the beginning. And we're going to go back from telophase into interphase. And the reason telophase stands for 2 is because we now have 2 new cells. But those cells are now back in interphase, and we're going to basically repeat this whole process, each one individually, right? So that is the kind of like cheat sheet way that I remember what the heck PMAT even means and what it looks like in a cell that is replicating. All right. Okay. So one thing that we definitely need to remember is, why do we even need the cell cycle, Miss? Why would we need to learn about the cell cycle? So there's a couple of really good reasons for that, and hopefully you guys kind of remember, but if you don't, it's okay. That's what the summary is for, right? So the first thing that you guys need to know is that the cell cycle is going to allow organisms to grow. We cannot grow. You guys cannot go from toddlers to, the teenagers that you currently are without cell replication, right? Basically, we are having ourselves, we are multiplying ourselves, and then we're growing bigger, right? So that is how we grow. Now, the second thing that we also use the cell cycle for, or the cell replication cycle, is going to be for healing and wound repair. So whenever you guys scrape your knee, our cells are going to replicate like crazy because you just lost a whole chunk of skin. You need to replace that chunk of skin. And again, this is just one of those other reasons that we need the cell cycle and why we love the cell cycle, right? Okay, guys, so that is all I have for you today. I'm sure future me has something to say. Thanks for giving me a shot to prepare my lab practical for my marine biology students. But let's get to work. Have a great day. Bye.